and I know they are changing. We had principals that were very clear that we're more apt to get the new names at this point and not the drops. The drops come later. So they're trying to make sure that the numbers look really good, but it's very possible there could be that change too because of the drops that we get within the next week. But at this particular time, not counting the pre-K, not counting the Learning Center, it shows 2,843 children at this point in time, and we're still a good week out, which is amazing. We end up having 409 at Roosevelt, 387 at Wilson, Lincoln with 265, O'Laughlin with 383. It's just a matter that I want to point out that all of those grade levels, K through 5, the smallest is 213, the largest is 260. So very healthy numbers. Middle school the same, 6th through 8th grade, we end up having smallest number of 213, the highest number 236. Again, you're very solid numbers. So everything I was being told in the first weeks I was here seems exactly correct with the enrollment, that high school 9 through 12, the largest number is 189 and the smallest is 165. So you're looking at that high school, not a single one's over 200, and every grade below that is over 200. So in another few years, it will have an effect upon the high school. As I was told, it sure shows that way. But the pre-K, there was 189 at this point, which seems to be a healthy number, and the Learning Center is under 18. It looks like about a dozen, and for adults, it looks like about 46 right now. So overall, I've always felt that when you're still a week and a half out and you're getting these kind of numbers, the administrators are right. You do get those drops later on, but we still can get some other new students. It's possible in the next week as well. And I don't know if I had mentioned, I just want to repeat it. The exciting news too is before we had the open door for enrollment, the walk-in enrollment, we had grand success with really the online enrollment. There was 750 students that enrolled before we even had the walk-in enrollment, which is more than the last couple years. So I think the public is catching on to that and really taking advantage of that. Very curious before we're done what that total number is. 750 before we started that. I'm really curious next week on the first day of school. It'll be more than 750 because they can still do that instead of walking in. But I'm really curious what that end number will be for having online enrollment in the district here. So that was one item. Any questions about the enrollment? There's no doubt, if anybody was questioning, the two largest is kindergarten, first grade. Well, actually, even second grade looks about the same. So kindergarten, first, second are large numbers. But the caution of saying, too, there could be a number of drops. So. Another item I wanted to share is, and you know this, anybody keeping up on an election, definitely that election is going to provide maybe a little more promise of maybe a little bit more consideration for public education in the state. I think everybody knows that it was promising in that regard. So, and Rusty is here. We have met, actually I've probably had more meetings with Rusty since I've been here in the 5 weeks than anybody else, but it's all trying to get ready and understand the maintenance issue and what are the issues and trying to get that outlined. We know that it's probably very important to get a plan as soon as possible. I'd love to see it before the end of September, if that's a possibility, to you to have an idea of what kind of a maintenance plan is necessary, putting down a timeline, understand, timeline's not going to be on that because that's going to be completely based upon finances to be able to deal with the timeline, but trying to have a prioritization of what those maintenance needs are, that's something that I think would be very valuable. Rusty's in total agreement. We're just trying to get that together to be able to share. It can help in probably a couple different ways at this point in time. So I think that's really all I have to share.
Do you have any other questions for John? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is the financial report. Tracy?
Actually, we'll just wait until we have the
Budget.
review of the business.
Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. The motion to accept the board meeting minutes for July 18th, 2016. The financial reports to include the clerk's report, investment report, and petty cash report. Personnel transactions. The approval of bills in the amount of $343,930.43. The approval of surplus items and the authorization of Commerce Bank to make payment to Glassman Corporation in the amount of $143,484.26. Been moved by Board Member Rankin.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member O'Borney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. New business, and we're going to go ahead and move the other one here. We have the Citizenship Act, and I think Shannon will kind of go over a little bit, and I believe Alan Wamser and looks like Dustin Schlafly are here to kind of go over an app that I believe they created.
Yeah, well, it's always exciting and very enjoyable to have parents and community who partner with our teachers and CME and use their talent and their skills to benefit all students. So that's really the situation. I know Shauna can come up and visit more, and Alan and Dustin and Shauna want to come up. Michelle Brugard's here as well. She is the lead teacher with this project. I think the project is 15 years, celebrated 15th year with citizenship. It started in 2001 after the bombing of the World Trade Center. I actually was able to be a part of that team at that point, and we talked about we our kids really know what it means to be an American citizen, and so that project began then. It has evolved and continued. It culminates with swearing-in ceremony of those students who were able to take the citizenship test and pass it. And they usually bring in speakers who have actually gone through the citizenship process. So it's been a really neat thing. And any of you who have had students go through the middle school know and have experienced that. So if you all want to come up, I'll turn it over to you to explain how this partnership worked out. Thank you for being here.
Well, Shanna, you kind of stole what I was going to
Oh.
say.
Sorry.
I want to introduce Alan Wamser and Dustin Schlafly from Next Tech. Alan works hospital, but he has a freshman son this year, but when his son was a seventh grader, he saw that we were doing this citizenship project in middle school. And what it entails is a United States abbreviation and map test to begin with. And then it moves on to acts of service, which we felt would be a really great thing for middle school students to understand what it's like to be a part of the community. And those acts of service can be anything like shovel your neighbor's snow for no payment, or help a custodian after school for 15 minutes. They're just little acts of service that they can kind of get the feel for what it's like to help someone without expecting something back in return. And then the final part of that is the citizenship test, which Michelle prepares them for. It's 100 questions, and they get them very early on, but they're required to study them and to know them, and that way, there's some of them that do it so well that it's unbelievable how well they want to do on this test. And so then it culminates with this final activity where we usually had it at 12th Street the last couple of years, and we have a speaker. She was saying we had Dr. Mirza Martin last year, so she had Cuba, and we usually try to pull somebody that is an immigrant that has actually gone through that citizenship process so that they can explain a little bit more. So what Alan did was he decided that we need a little bit of a
it up there already, Alan?
No, it's not. We're going to wait for these. They just, when East was a seventh grader, he brought him that stack of cards. And we all said, oh, that'd be great for an app. And now McKinley's going to be a seventh grader, so this summer I think, okay, I'm going to start working on it. I'll do it for her. It turned out to be nice. I liked it, so that's why I started to approach everybody about it and everything available. It'll be available for both those platforms.
Cool.
She's ready to release it. And it's updatable. All the data stored in cloud, except for PowerPoint presentation. Copied out all of the 100 questions and put it on there. So it's just a simple flashcard session. I have the app with me. If anybody wants to see it, more than welcome to play around with it. So, right, I can just look at making sure everybody's okay with it. And that things out with Dustin. But I have a wife and students, so I understand the importance of funding from outside. These are a big deal. So it's something I was due to be able to enroll money for her class. It's a great program. I remember it. It's one of the things you do remember as a parent. That's his mission. So that's when I approached Dustin to see if they would want to sponsor it. They agreed to.
And so when you do that, they have enough stuff on it.
Yeah, when you launch it, it has the Falcon, his graphic cards, and we talked about that. They themed it. It has a red, white, blue theme. Falcon.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so we worked with Alan. He had kind of some ideas to come up with kind of a launch page for it. So it does have the Falcon on the front of the plan, two little bits of black.
Yeah, plus I was going to guys can see that's just a picture of it. I have the app here. You know it's but it's red, white, blue. This is my phone. So really, it's just a scrollable list. It has all the questions on there. You can touch it, it flips over to red. And then if you do a full refresh, it'll restore all of them. It'll restore all of the questions. And then you can see the ones that I had already learned. So I already flipped over, so they're all in there. They're changeable, so anytime the app's launched, it'll go down, pull up. So she makes a change as we're in election year. And something's misspelled or anything, you go out there and change it. As soon as they launch it, it pulls down the brand new update. So all this is sorted out off the cloud. The app's free. There's absolutely no cost for it to anybody. It's free for the students only. I didn't want to do ads on it to help generate money, but that's why I promoted it.
So on behalf of Next Tech, we love being involved in technology and education. That's two things we support a lot. So I guess I just want to give a shout out to Alan for volunteering his time as a parent, just going out doing this on his own. This is great, fantastic. We need more people to do that in the community.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for being an innovative parent and coming up with this, and then taking that next step and working with you at Next Tech, and thank you for sponsoring this. This is so exciting. As a parent, we've been through this. It is such an important project. I was blown away to witness that last year with my seventh grader. I've got another one coming up, so I'm very excited to see this. Because I mean, this is just great. And since they're taking the iPad home this year, it's just a great tie-in. And so thank you.
Next project, next time I write that, and now I told them to get some students here, then we do that. That's amazing.
And if you guys, I'd be happy to share, turn the code over to the school and they can do their own thing. That'd be great.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Alan. Any other questions on the app while everybody's still here? Thanks, Dave.
I am curious, our teacher, excuse me, how long have you been, of the 15 years that we've been doing this, how many of the years have you been part of it? 14 of the 15? Wow. Very good, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the 2017 budget review. Tracy.
I would like to ask Marissa to come join us if you would, please. Marissa has been absolutely critical in
I thought you were going to get out of it.
She has been absolutely critical in helping get the budget prepared and everything, and also has taken on a great deal of the activity funds and things like that. So if there's any questions that she might be able to answer, I'd like her to be here too. And thank you for all your help and support and hard work. I really appreciate it. Yes, please, if you would. Yeah. So the full budget is attached. I would encourage you to read through the profile. It is really informational on some of the challenges and some of the great things that are happening in our district, and so we always keep that updated every year. So I encourage you to go through that. I did just make a PowerPoint to highlight some things that I thought needed to be pointed out or that might be helpful. This is a list of our total expenditures, all the funds, and you see for instruction, we are up 18%, so we have increased our budget, the money that is going to instruction. The 123% for operations and maintenance, that includes our entire capital outlay fund, so that we have the budget authority in case we need to spend that. We are only planning on spending $3.4 million. Last year, it was 2.9, so we are planning on spending more on operations and maintenance, but we are not planning on spending that full 6% of budget authority. Capital improvements, we have budgeted $603,000, about $260,000 more than last year, planning for some systems that may be going down and having that money available. The other costs there towards the bottom looks a little strange. It shows up 2,000%. If you look under the column of 1516, where there's a 6,861, there was a reimbursement for that line last year, so it looks a little bit odd, but you can see this year we're planning on spending $54,000, so it's just down slightly from 2 years ago. You know, oftentimes you'll hear questions from the legislators and community members and others about how much is spent on instruction, how much our budget actually goes to the classroom. So this chart shows 66% of all of our budget is going to instruction. This is the Form 151, which gives us our general fund budget authority. The top line in yellow shows that we are receiving the same amount, kind of hard to read up there, it's fairly small, but we are receiving the same amount as we did in 2014-15 through the block grant. I'm actually going to pull my notes so I can see it a little bit clearer. And then towards the middle of the page shows our CAPERS flow through. That is up from last year because of the delayed CAPERS payment and then also a slight increase. On line 16, we have transfers from authorized funds of $331,000. The $331,000 is what we currently have in contingency reserve. That is in there in case we would need the budget authority if something majorly drastic would happen, but we are not anticipating on spending any money from contingency reserve this year. And then on line 18, the miscellaneous of $67,000. We paid off our no fund warrant last year, and so we are going to actually be closing that fund this year. The motor vehicle taxes are paid 2 years after the fact, so we are going to be getting some revenue into the no fund warrant. And so we worked with guys around there and involved to figure out the best way to handle that. And they recommended that we put the revenue in general fund, and then we will move it to capital outlay since it is a one-time kind of thing. And so then the no fund warrant will be closed.
May I add one piece? I want to make sure that everybody here is well aware that that contingency fund number of $331,000, there's a lot of people that can look at numbers and say, well, that's a lot of money. I want people to understand that there was a time not so many years ago that the state ended up recommending 6% of your general fund would end up being contingency, okay? Then they changed it to 10%. So it ends, and now in the last couple of years, there's been great criticism that's existed by legislators of saying that there's way too much money in there, although that was the direction that was given by the state for years, to end up having that for protection of catastrophic issues that could occur. You know, that was just very smart financing, you know, of just having that money. For this district, just to point out, that's really quite low. It's not a big number. Thank you.
Tracy, I'm sorry, I want to make, because we don't have your PowerPoint.
No.
Okay. Could you just kind of point out what you're doing here on that? be able to. I mean, I can see it now, or will it kind of follow the materials we have?
Not necessarily. I've just kind of pulled out some things that I thought would be informational, and I will learn from that and make sure I look at that way so I can see a little better. This is Form 151. It starts off with the forms, correct, and then goes into the budget codes. So they are numbered in the middle of the page, or towards the bottom of the pages.
And on mine, it starts at 117, it's Form 151, attached to the agenda. Page 117 is where Form 151 starts.
The second page of the Form 151, I do have highlighted here in red, just to show that we are still, this year, as the second year of the block grant, we are contributing $54,163 to the Extraordinary Needs Fund. So that is coming out of our budget, and going into that fund. I read an article the other day that, I think there was 30 applicants or something they had, for that fund, so it was quite considerable.
Did they expend all of it last year?
No, they did not. This is the actual general fund budget authority. It looks like it's page 48 of the budget, which is where on line 6. We're on page 135, 135. And these are the same numbers that we just looked at on the Form 151. I just wanted to kind of show the correlation and where those are coming from. So you see the 67,000 in miscellaneous, which is line 67 on that form. That's the no fund warrant. You can also see the flow through for special education and papers, both coming into general fund and then going out to those appropriate areas. And then that very bottom part shows the $331,000 contingency reserve. Again, we are not planning on spending any contingency reserve, but just want to have the budget authority so we know that we have to. This is, Sarah, is actually part of one of the, I think it's in our budget at a glance things, but I just wanted to highlight the sources of revenue from our state, local, and federal. Our state revenues are up this year. That does include the increase in papers payment. Our federal revenue is up slightly, and our local revenue is down a little bit also. But the main thing is that the $283, we have $283 per student less revenue this year than we did last year. So that adds up pretty significantly over time. And then I also just wanted to give a little bit of history about the base state aid per pupil. You know, we're in the block grant right now, so we aren't doing the weightings and things like that. But I just thought a historical view would be good to understand. In 2008, our base state aid per pupil was $4,433, and that is oftentimes the number that you hear when they're talking about is the state adequately funding education. They go back to this $4,433. And so then you can see through 2009, we had 4 different cuts to base state aid per pupil, along with a total of 2% reduction in special education. In 2009, base state aid was, 2011, base state aid was lowered twice. We did have an increase of $58 in July of 2013, and in April of 2014, an increase of $14. But when they excluded virtual and new facility weighting that year, USD 49 actually lost $99,000. So the total of all of those changes since 2008 is over $2.7 million that has affected USD 49. That is each and every year. So our total losses in the last 8 years is over $20 million. That if they would have left it at the $4,433, we would have $20 million more. Had 20,000 more, 20 million more to spend over the last 8 years. So when you look at that, it's pretty significant. And that does not include the block grants, since we have not been doing the full audit. We know, as John said, with our enrollment going up, if we were still under the old formula, we would be receiving more money today than what we have. I just thought that was a little bit of an enlightening, some numbers for you guys to see. The budget does include a
wage increase for all staff that are not covered under the SEIU or the HNEA negotiated agreements. We had kind of planned on doing this in June, and then it got delayed with the legislature and our funding. But we did budget in a 1.05% wage increase, and that would be for anybody who was employed last school year. So this is really kind of a raise for those staff that, we really wanted to happen last year to go along with the HNEA negotiated agreement that you guys came up with. The 1.05% is equivalent to the amount of money that we contributed into the HNEA vertical and horizontal steps. And then also a lump sum payment of 0.5% based on the 15-16 base wage if they had a work agreement or a contract and are still employed. So all of those numbers are budgeted. We will ask you guys to officially vote on that on the August 22nd meeting.
As a separate item.
Yes. Are there any questions on that?
Are all of these people then covered under the same healthcare agreement and everything else that the teachers and everything are?
Yes, they are. Yes, all of their benefits change with the negotiations. Yes. And then Shannon, if you don't mind bringing up the next one. Oh, sure. This is the official notice of hearing, which we will next ask you guys to approve for it to be published in the Maine Daily News. But this is where all of our mill levy and the taxes are showing up. In the general fund, it's always 20 mills. It's over on the very far right column. In supplemental general or LOB, the number always stays the same. We're still going to be collecting $5,850,000. But our mill levy does change based on valuations. It will be going from 16.119.
It's page 228 as well, if you're following along.
228, you said?
So the mill levy will be going down for LOB from 16.119 down to 14.3. Capital outlay stays at its constant 8 mills. The declining enrollment just goes down a little slight bit from 1.449 to 1.4. And so on the next page, right in the middle on line 100, you can see our total mill levy will be going from 45.568 down to 43.7. So that is lowering the mill levy by 1.868 mills. And then at the very bottom, we do, as you know, levy for his rec commission. They receive 3 mills, and then their benefits is up a little tiny bit for that. So that's just flow through money that goes to them.
And just to clarify, we have no say-so in that, it's just strictly a pass-through.
Right. It's just the way that they levy their taxes
Right.
through us, right?
Be the state.
Are there any questions on the mill levy and the notice of hearing? We were glad to say that the mill levy will be coming down. What other questions do you have about the overall budget? These are just some of the highlights that I thought we could talk about. I mean, it's very similar to last year's, the lot grant. We haven't made very many major changes or anything else, so.
I had that question, I wish I'd asked it more. You had shown a pie graph with the distribution spending, like go back to that.
Okay.
Seems like your second slide. So I was wondering if comparative-wise, one of the complaints we heard from the legislature this year was there's not enough money being spent on construction, it's being spent on other things. How is this, maybe you have some help with that? Those are 66%?
Yes.
How is that in comparison to the rest of the state or where it may be? Because it seems like a pretty healthy chunk of the budget is directly benefiting the students through instruction.
My memory is that they've usually identified 2/3. So we're right at it.
We're right where we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
The legislators some have been pushing that, of saying that's what should be identified. But they have found that there are some districts with their calculations, and again, you must be careful that you are using the same divisions, as far as, but if they are, there were some that was well below that, 50-some for instruction.
So we're in line with.
Oh, definitely. We're in line with what the expectations are that was set, or criticisms, I'll say it that way, criticisms set that too little money is being spent on instruction.
And that pie chart is on page 42, 42 or 43 of your.
And just look at this in general, how consistent are we, are there places that we are exceptionally spending less than others to benefit instruction?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow
Looking at
that.
This whole pie chart, are there other areas that is this pretty consistent with the expectations of budgeting, or are there areas that were a little higher or lower end?
I would have to look compared to other districts.
Well, now
Our
there's-
state expectations.
Definitely, there's one thing that's very, very strange on this chart, and I don't know if anybody's noticed it, but it's the zero. There are most districts does not have that, the debt services. Most, I'd say, well, no, I'd still say most. There's some debt that exists with probably most school districts in the state. And for us, I don't know how many years you can go back, but it's a number of years that there hasn't been payments that are necessary for that. So is that, that's one thing that's obvious looking up there that's really quite different. I'm sorry, as far as looking at administration or operations, I'd have to go back and make a comparison of looking at some others. I don't know. But I can tell you right off, that zero is definitely out of ordinary for the majority of districts in the state.
But debt, you mean bond.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. Well, and it could be other, it's typically bond, okay? I guess there could be other situations, but it's typically bond. And again, you're saying, how long do you pay on bonds? It can be 20 years. It could be 30 years you could pay on a bond. And so people can forget about that, but you're still, we don't. We're still having to make sure we're funding that and paying on it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Do we have any other questions for Tracy on the budget?
We heard you guys were putting in some extra hours, so thank you.
We'll see what happens next year. Maybe it's like within the week.
Keeps it interesting.
I hope we open up in June and have it done by the second week of July.
That would be nice.
High expectations.
Okay, and then obviously the next board meeting will have the stuff to approve the budget. The next item on the agenda is the notice of the budget hearing, though. We do need to make a motion to publish that notice in the Hayes Daily News. I believe that's correct.
I'll make the motion to publish the notice of budget hearing, whatever else necessary.
I would assume it's just in the paper, correct?
And our official will be designated legal location.
That covers it.
That'll work. There, whatever that, newspaper.
Been moved by Board Member Adams. We have a second. Okay, seconded by Board Member Lane. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the Every Student Succeeds Act, or the ESSA report. And I believe Dr. Raj Sharma has some stuff to share with us on that.
Before I go in to this act, I want to let our board know what we are doing so far. with the feedback that I have received from the school, our stakeholders, parents, our teachers, admins, we have, including me, myself, and John, we have added a few new positions, and those are funded by federal dollars. So the two that we have are social workers and one behavior specialist. And when you look at the need, because I remember one comment that I got from the teacher. When heart is broken, how do you teach the kid? So there's this kind of comment came across. Of course, there's a need because of our there are a lot of, I heard about the counseling needs and all. So of course, going through all the changes. Kind of like we thought about what we can do. One thing that we thought is using social workers. We will give categorical aid, that's 1,000 plus, and then they can do Medicaid billing, that's come between 7,000 to 10,000. So based on my prior experience, so you are hiring a professional for free, that's up there. We might have to spend on benefits. Okay. So that's one thing that kind of like been discussing with our admin and team that we have here. That's going to come in next board meeting for your approval. But it is something that we have advertised, and we got a few good applicants, and I think we have one good social worker, and she can start from August 22nd. The rest we are still kind of working on the applications, so we'll kind of update you as we go. So that's something in the pipeline. Same thing with the behavior specialist. We won't get the Medicaid, but we will get the categorical aid. So $28,000 we'll get for them. And both require, either you take the behavior specialist requires a school side, clinical side, or a SPED background. So same thing with social workers. They're going to have master in social work.
And the money that we'll get for that from the state on that, we can put that towards programs for the students or staff or whatever?
Yeah, it's like based on, like especially you get federal dollar based on the license. So based on their license, you receive like $27,500.
Okay.
So that's you receive in a special ed. Okay. It's different from the regular.
So are you looking for people that have either worked in the schools before, or at least have worked with children before?
Actually, preference is in school,
Okay.
but we are a little late in the game.
Okay.
So we might not find somebody, but yes, what we got is somebody who worked in mental health system. So they have some kind of mental health experience. And we got pretty decent applicants, they have been to good schools, and they have worked in our community. That's one part. I'll go into this act. Of course, this is just a reauthorization from Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Okay. The Every Student Succeeds Act, they're calling ASA. Of course, there's a lot of new provision, and there's some could be accountability portion or kind of same that we had. If you look at the testing, not a whole lot different from what we have. AYP, annual yearly progress, is different. There's no AYP anymore, so that's a change. And all the provision, there is no child left behind is gone. So that's part of this act as well. If you look at school improvement, there are a lot of focus on Title I, the school who are performing at bottom 5%. Okay. So that's then you have focus on homeless kids and the training for the liaison. That's kind of a key, and that's the one the state is going to implement in 2016, 2017. go on for hours. So if you look at the testing piece, it didn't change a whole lot from what we had in the past. They're going to do the reduced footprint in our state. Of course, it's going to reduce the testing, what we have, and Shana will go in detail. Then what the second thing they have is 7 states. They're going to be part of this innovative assessment, and they'll add more in future. They're going to authorize funds, a state and local LEA. So you can see the word state and LEA. That's was kind of changed from FEC. It came down to the state and local level. So that's the change from what we heard in past. So, now, if you see the accountability, they know AYP, that's a change, and then it's going to be, you see the state assessment piece, that's going to be again on local and the state level. Graduation rates, so all the schools who are, I'm going to go on there, all the schools who are performing below 67%, they are going to get the special, they are going to focus for a school improvement. Then ESL, that's the other focus going to be in. There is a term this Fed is going to be looking at, and it's kind of in future slides. If you look at the accountability, the focus is going to be on proficiency, of course, on the state testing, graduation rate, ESL. Again, when it's come down to our testing, 95% assessment participation. So participation rate is going to be crucial in this one. Again, this is the area they're going to focus on school improvement. Lowest performing, 5% Title 1. High school with less than 67% graduation. A school with underperforming subgroups. Teacher evaluation is going to be more or less same. They're not going to be, any specific measure from the state or district. So it's all going to be district or state can choose whatever way they want to go. Still, we can use, it's not required, but district can use Title II funds for professional development or teacher evaluation. What's going to change in 2016? Okay, so if you look at API, that's a change. That's the way it's going to get measured. Assessment Performance Index. They're kind of like adding a score, total score, and dividing it up by total number of students we have. And that's the way they're going to like judge each school. So each school is going to get that score, and that's the way they're going to, especially they're looking at bottom 5%. This is the formula they're going to use for bottom 5% schools. And if you look at the transition, 16, 17, even there's a big change. Is the school of origin in homeless, in the Homeless Assistance Act. And that's going to be required and start from the preschool level. Then transportation requirement going to be the other one, and it's going to be done by school of origin. So if you are a school of origin, then you have to provide the transportation for homeless kids. If you change, if you change the school, there is a, provision of their school can get with whoever school the child is going, and they both can share the cost as well. So there's other provision in there as well, but there's something new in there. And there is a mandatory professional development for liaisons. And you see credit accrual requirement for work completed. So these are kind of new stuff that we have in the law. That's going to be enacted in 16-17. A lot of stuff that you see in Title III right now, like education of migratory children, is moved to Title I. So that's a change. Prevention and intervention programs for children and youth who are neglected, delinquent, at risk, that's going to be part of Title I. And this is Title I change going to happen in 17-18. It's not going to impact next year. Title II, not a whole lot change. It still we can use for professional development. Similar use with additional uses that will be available. Title III, there's some going to be in Title I. So most of Title III accountability is now part of Title I. And again, it's going to be enacted in 17-18. Title IV, there is a new formula grant, student support and academic enrichment. It's going to be available from 17-18. They're still going to have 21st century stuff that we had in past. Title IV, you see there is a focus on safe and healthy students. There's going to be effective use of tech. So there's all going to be a change in Title IV here. And Title V, it used to be Title VI. Now they made Title V. So of course similar kind of provisions is still a change. And it's going to impact next year, not this year. If you look at Title VI, Indian, Native Hawaiian, if you have even 10 kids, this applies to you. So we looked at the number. I don't think we have 10 kids, so we don't have to worry about this one particular. So, but still, it's going to apply next year. 7, again, next year is going to impact. So I think it used to be Title 8, now it's Title 7. So that's a summary of the new ASA or every student succeed that. If you got any question, I'm here for you. Or you can email me and let me know.
Do we know or have any concerns about whether we will struggle to meet any of the KPIs?
We're going to look at last year score, and then you see right now is coming out. Of course, Title III, that's pressing more on ESL. That's going to come. Everything will come out in September. So by that time, we're going to have an exact idea where we stand overall.
We got our EML, we just did a reassessment last spring, and so yeah, we can get those. There'll be a baseline. So really, the state reauthorized. We were functioning on a waiver, so there were certain things for the waiver that we had to do. One of these do road measures, the waiver expired over the summer, and now the new Every Student Succeeds Act. And then that comes out at federal level, and our state has to, again, a lot more falls on the state and locally, so then our state has to decide, well, what does that mean for us in Kansas, and then moving forward. So that's what, I know Roger and I, the state's still trying to get information out, and then they'll train people on how homeless is going to change and those types of things. So there's still a lot. Having a 0 year is nice. So we kind of have a transition year for the Every Student Succeeds Act. We also have a 0 year for our new accreditation cycle. So schools are accredited in the state of Kansas by the State Department. We've been automatically accredited the last 2 years just because we've been transitioning on that waiver. So this is 0 year. Moving into the next school year, 17-18, when the new guidelines from PISA also is when our new accreditation cycle will start. And I just have an attachment. If you're familiar with the old accreditation, it was QPA, which had to do with adequate yearly progress, the AYP, that's gone. And this is a nice side-by-side comparison. We won't read through every row, but highlights are row 1, instead of looking at individual schools and accrediting that way, we're going to have a district view with a system-wide accreditation. And then you'll be accredited, conditionally accredited or not accredited, but instead of an annual accreditation, it'll be a 5-year cycle of accreditation. You can see that. We'll be talking more and we're getting out the buildings and site council about the 5 R's. Results is just one of those 5 R's. So again, it's looking at the comprehensive system-wide education we provide as a district. Line 7 or row 7, you kind of see the process. We're going to spend some time looking at needs, whether that's through surveys or whatever, assessing our needs, setting goals, and then deciding and developing an action plan, implementing, and then continuing to monitor how we're doing. It will be like on row 8, road-based, so it's not like we have to hit a certain target. That's we need to shift away from how it used to be with AYP to here's where we are, and close that gap or showing growth. So a growth model and not just one assessment, multiple data and evidence can be used, and then you can look at some of the others. So I just wanted to kind of let you know about that. The last one is stakeholders. The whole building site council became part of state statute with the old QPA. Everything had a building site council. Now that it's more of a district, we want building site council, we want a district site council.
I was wondering about that. That was one of my questions.
Yeah, district site council. We already have a district leadership team in place through our whole MTSS intervention process. We just now will take on and have a new purpose and encompass more. And then we also have building leadership teams. And now they'll be part of this process rather than when we started with just focusing on MTSS, multi-tier support. So we have some of the structure in place. It's just now learning and kind of diving into this new process. And then as far as assessments, the state really, from our commissioner, Dr. Watson, really is less emphasis is on state assessments. There are a lot of schools voice their opinions. Why are we spending so much time on them? Why are we sacrificing instructional time when you're saying they're not even as important? They're not the single measure. So they listen. So the state board adopted, and moving forward to this spring, they have reduced that assessment footprint by 60% for this spring activity. So I shared that with the teachers today, our PLC chair, and they're really excited. So we had performance tasks this past year. Those are not going to be part of what's required in the spring. They'll be voluntary and part of interim assessments. So the state's trying to build some formative and interim assessments, which would be good tools for us to use down the road, but it's not going to be part of the summative assessments. Listening will be removed as well, and they'll just be 2 days instead of 4 for the ELA, and the math, science will be assessed, and then we'll learn more about the interims and those types of things. But we should be getting, the scores we took last spring are now for the districts to start looking at and reviewing to make sure that everything looks right, and then the state will be releasing those during the fall and going report cards.
I don't know if you realize, but the state commissioner, Dr. Watson, this year, he came from McPherson, and he was clearly, McPherson was the radical of the state of saying, we're not going to do state assessments. And they did get that approval to end up having a different plan. And really at a state level, he's really kind of making that plan and looking at it in a different way. So he really is taking what was going on in that district and bringing it at a state level. I think it's being well received by most. They view that as being good at this point.
Under the teacher and evaluation support, it has a deal where it sort of reauthorizes the teacher incentive fund competitive grant to support innovative educator evaluation systems. Is that something we qualify on any of that, or I mean, is that hand in hand with our current evaluation system, or does it allow us, similar to this, to go in and do some different things that?
That's an option for the, if you want to go and do something innovative, but we have to move on from current negotiation. Of course, we have to go through negotiated agreement, and that's going to be a negotiated item. We want to try something new.
I guess you would just do price grant dollars aren't available if we want to do that. So I'm sure something that would be available.
Is that something we should look into for putting on for the negotiations? Obviously, this year is probably too late, but for next year, as far as
would say, oh, we have to look at that.
Yeah, we'll look in more detail.
It just seems a lot of those are, just a lot of those they seem so impersonal as far as the way they do the evaluations and stuff. It would be nice if we could change things up a little bit.
We talked today with the teachers about, we spent some time with student growth measures, and our focus was, let's not add new measures, what are you doing right now?
Right.
You have to be measuring student success, and let's use those. So there we need to know, it doesn't have to be a certain number, and it's not, tied directly, but moving forward, it's now called student performance. It's still going to be part of the evaluation process, which it should be. It should be a conversation we're having. How are your students doing? Are they learning? How are we measuring? If not, why not? Do you need professional development? Do you need to collaborate with people? So the teachers understand that it's going to continue to be a part of our evaluation. It just probably will look different with the new ESSA. And then we can definitely look at some of the others.
And Lance, I understand your concerns on that, but do know the reason for part of that was the attempts of consistency.
Right.
They were trying very hard to have more consistency of how the evaluation was being conducted in each building. Instead of a particular administrator doing it really a different way and the tool being loose enough that they can.
Gotcha.
That is one reason it did go that way. They end up having it broken down and trying to be more objective than being subjective. That was their intent. But you're right. It is less personal. But I think it was intended to be less personal because of that.
Gotcha.
That's part of it.
And growth measures are gone, so they are not going to be evaluated based on test score. So that piece is gone from next year on.
Very good. Does anybody have any other questions at all for Dr. Sharma or Shane?
I'd like to make a statement, though, a commendation for Dr. Sharma, because in the first week or two, he came and shared his idea as far as really pushing that social worker and a couple social workers in the plant. No question whether it was needed or not. That's not the issue. It's just that I'm a bit embarrassed when I laugh at him of his idea that he's going to end up having them in place before school starts, because the time frame's so tight, and Shanna's definitely a witness to it, of me giving him a hard time about him being, he's going, I can do this, I can, well, he has one, and really, I don't know, I'm eating crow at the moment is what's happening, so I congratulate you for you being able to actually identify some. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you both for your time on that. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Hayes High School roof repair bids.
Yeah, if I could start and just address it a little bit as far as where we are with that. This is something that was new because it was damaged with the high wind that we ended up having. It damaged the library at the high school, the roof there. Didn't realize we ended up having damage until got on the roof, because we had a vent that was damaged, and we knew that, had to fix it. But while up there, realizing that wind had got underneath it and detached the material from the surface, and well, in checking with insurance, the real plan is you have to end up going through the process of identifying how much it's going to cost to repair it. Yes, insurance is going to pay. I mean, they'll be involved in this process, but not until you identify. They're not. Okay, you already checked. They're not going to be. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, and I have a couple questions about that. So, do we not have, unless I'm jumping into detail, do you want to finish?
If I can.
Yes.
Okay. The issue ends up being one where then Rusty comes and talks to me. I end up saying, certainly we need to get on this as soon as possible, try to end up getting it fixed. In the process of him going through the steps of it, there is one key issue, and key from the standpoint of the steps, especially for this board, because you've already addressed it at least once or twice earlier, and that was a matter that it was not posted on the web. We have our locals. There's 2 local roofers that are involved. Rusty even met with them again today. They're very informed as far as they were present last Friday. It ends up being that they know what's going on. And there is a plan, if you read through what was attached to this, as far as maybe some steps we're going to take in the future, especially with the roofing. But as far as bids goes, it's supposed to be on the web. It's supposed to be posted somewhere in the steps, okay? And there's several people that's involved in that process. I'll just tell you, it's not Rusty that puts it, I mean, he's not going to be the one that puts it on the web. But in the whole steps of this, it didn't happen. And because of that, I want to end up just throwing this out to the 5 board members of saying, because of that, certainly, we're in a spot where we can just drop this right now. We don't need to talk anymore. We could be done. It's not a matter of 15 minutes more conversation or 20. If we want to just say, we need to go back and get new bids because we didn't follow the steps. And although we wouldn't get anybody else who's local, certainly there could be, if it was on the web, there could be someone else who could have linked in from, I don't know, next close, maybe Salina, maybe Wichita. I mean, there could be someone else that would link into this. And that's the plan, that's the intention. So the question ends up being a matter, is there even the necessity to continue with this and talk about what the bids are and trying to end up, because I know I need to follow after finding out Friday and then today with the information that I gleaned in that time. I need to follow, try to end up working to make sure, even though it was stated the last time back in April or March, it's not going to happen again. Here I am as a new superintendent saying it's not going to happen again. Okay, it's got to be taken care of. We've got to do that. Now I would end up saying, and I had that conversation with Lance briefly, I understand doing that, but I also heard the other part of the board, even one-on-one with some of our meetings, of saying we want to end up doing everything we can to try to keep our money in Hayes and support our locals. And I agree with that completely. The web is important. It needs to be done. At the same time, the local piece, there could be a little bit of contradiction there, because if you end up having it on the web, you could end up making sure you're getting those outside people who are bidding, and the larger companies could successfully low bid our locals. And that would be our discussions, and that would be a problem. But I just am saying, if you've had past conversations on that, maybe it warrants a little bit more conversation with it. The procedure that exists at this time, though, does say it should be a matter that it was on the web. So I'm just saying, kind of dragging this out to a point of saying, do we even want to continue talking, or do we go back and get new bids on this, or do we continue tonight and end up having the rest of the explanation of the bids that are at hand? Open discussion.
Quick question, as far as this technically being a work session, when is our next board meeting that we
22nd.
technically vote on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the 22nd. No, you have a problem with the roof. You want to fix it as soon as possible, but at the same time, it's not ripped off. Okay, Rusty has it gotten more damage?
Can I clarify?
Sure.
We're on 2 different projects. This was a roof project that was bid for replacement of roof. There was a damaged roof separate, it's insurance.
Okay, that is the insurance one.
I may have not got that explained to you correctly in the short.
And they're adjacent to each other.
Yes, they're adjacent to each other.
Okay.
The bid is for replacement of an area of the roof of the library.
That you were planning on? That was
Yes.
part of your roof replacement plan?
Right.
And so this is not a warranty issue, this is not a...
That way you might have to look back at it.
And that's why there's no insurance claim.
We have an insurance claim filed as far as the damage to the adjacent section. And I've got an adjuster going to be here tomorrow on it.
But not on this one.
But not on this one. This one was an actual replacement. And they're just coinciding with each other, and I think that's where the confusion's at. This one was actually spec'd out. HDK put a spec together. It was a roof replacement. Bids were sent out and we received bids. On the insurance, we wouldn't seek bids, that would be just proposals that were given to the insurance company, and then the insurance company would pick.
So the numbers that were on the agenda tonight were for which?
They're for the roof
The
replacement.
repair.
I haven't even got proposals yet for the insurance part.
Is it about the same size of
It's-
square footage of roof?
No, it's probably a third the size of what we're dealing with here.
Okay.
And it's basically the membranes become detached from the connectors that hold it down. And we're gonna have to pull it back and just re-glue those back down is what they'll do. There's no actual tears or anything that would create a leak. It's just, it's had uplift and
That was my next question. We're not, any water damage or anything that happens to?
No. And
Is
I
there
did,
concern with replacing that during the school year with noise and whatnot?
no, I had talked to Mr. Straub about that and it worked out. We've done that before, replaced it. We would have got it done in this fiscal year, or in this timeframe. We'd have probably been waiting until spring if we didn't do that, and we were wanting to go ahead and get this replaced.
So were we originally planning to make a decision tonight, or were we just discussing it because that's on the 22nd? even
No,
though-
the decision would still be, the vote would be on the 22nd. But it's still a matter of
Do we want to proceed?
understanding,
or
if not,
since it didn't
we
follow
put it
policy?
back and we wait and go through the process again.
To me, since we're going to be voting on the 22nd anyway, I mean, we will just be discussing it tonight and now.
Well, I assure you, it is troublesome as far as the procedure needs to be followed, okay? If we want to change that procedure, fine, but the procedure as it is should be followed that way, and again, awkward being new superintendent, first time for me, but you just dealt with it back in April, March, but something that really does need to be tended in those particular steps.
We also just figured we could have the discussion now rather than having a long drawn-out discussion at the board meetings. That way, if there were
Yeah, that's-
questions, hopefully everybody can answer them.
Because it'd be different numbers. If you do the rebid, I mean, if the decision is to, it could be different people, different companies that we're even talking about the next time we're sitting here. So I don't want to end up spending 20 minutes talking on this if we really do want to just go ahead and throw it out and rebid it and come back a little bit later.
The only thing I would share with you from a vendor's standpoint, when I did visit with them today, I mean, on the alternate, they're $5 apart. On the bid that we're going to accept, they're less than $500 apart. And they both stated that, we're exposed now. Yeah, everybody, and even the one that would not be accepted if we followed the recommendation was still thinking that we needed to go ahead and not rebid it. Now, that's from the vendor standpoint.
Sure. Okay, so the web would, your procedure is, or our policy, I'm trying to pull it up. You contact all the local ones by email?
The first time that I did roofs here, we sent them out by email, and one of the roofers did not receive the email either because it was missed in their inbox or it went to a spam folder or whatever, and didn't know anything about the roof bid until the day of the opening. Since that happened, we went back and we established a policy. I called each roofer and said that it had been sent to them, that they hadn't received it, they needed to call me back and that we would try the email address.
And by each roofer?
Each of the local roofers. And then
local team
I even contacted the ones that we had on the bid sheet that, because there was roofers listed on the bid sheet outside of the, and I contacted all of them to make sure that they had received it, and they were ones that were recommended by basically our architect. And then when they confirmed that they received it, and then they would have had the option to bid or not bid on it. Both local roofers received the emails this time, and they both met with me on the same day we went up and looked at it. We've made some pretty good strides with resolving some of that. I mean, today was really good. I sat down with both of them. We talked about the bidding process, and basically looking at having both of them review, like when we put a bid spec together, have them review it before we ever send it out so that we're all on the same page. Because there was a little bit of confusion on this one with the I-90 rating simply because there's two I-90 ratings. It's whether it's a manufacturer's I-90 rating or just a building standard I-90 rating. And that's why you've got an alternate bid in here, was to clear that up. And that didn't come to light till after we bid it. And so we talked about that and discussed that I'd have them both review the plan so that at least locally we'd be on the same page as to what we were bidding. And then that way we could bring you just strictly a number and not have to make decisions as to what roof or type of roof or anything. It'd just be, you pick the number and that's what we do. The other thing that we discussed is like our minor repairs. In the past, our practice on that was to use the roofer that put the roof down. Well, I'm not been here that long. Francis knew every person that put a roof on here. I don't. So what we talked about today was doing sort of a rotation, similar to like what they do for record services for accidents and stuff. If I have leaks on this building, I contact the local roofer. If I have leaks on another building, then I contact the next one in the rotation.
The rotation is for minor repairs,
Right.
okay,
It's
not
gonna
bid.
be- Not gonna be good stuff. We also discussed several things, and it was a good conversation. When we got done, I felt very comfortable with where we were at.
So how many did you send it out to them? How many?
It was either 4 or 5, and it was 4. Marissa's 24.
And while I
And you
sym-
got 3?
We got 3 back. We had one person that didn't bid.
and while I sympathize with the vendor, my only issue is, like I said, we made it abundantly clear last time. In fact, I think we even did media stuff and everything else stating that all of our future bids would be placed on the website. There was no question whatsoever on that. In some way, shape, or form, unfortunately, that didn't happen, so.
So that question is still here at the table as far as the 5 board members making that decision as far as either can work. It's just a matter of delving into the numbers and looking at the bids, or else saying, let's put it off. We'll end up going back and asking for bids and get it on the web. And
Now, our bid policy, I'm going to read through it, if you all have your pen, anybody. If a local bid comes within X percentage, I mean, we don't, it's the lowest bid within, but then isn't there a portion that says if we have a
I don't
local
think
one?
technically you even have to take the lowest bid in certain
Okay.
situations.
1%.
How much?
1%.
1%, okay.
From a legal standpoint, Bill, do you recommend one course of action over another?
I don't have any legal concerns which way you go. My only concern is, we went through this before, so we changed the policy to reflect the posting. So, if you have a policy, you have a policy.
My comment is the same. So we need to move on it. Fortunately, despite all the policy, it's a nightmare. Unexpected consequences that could come out.
Anybody else have anything to share on it?
I know that.
I
know that puts
understand.
these-
That was part of the conversation today with them.
And that's the
that
bad
this
part, because it
could
was no
happen.
different than with Glassman or with the other stuff that we went through. It just,
And I guess I'm hoping that we won't receive anybody, and if we do, it's within 1%. So,
And like I said, that was part of the conversation today. I let them both know that this was in place and it was a policy now. In the past, it was just a practice, and now it's a policy, that this was very likely could be the outcome of it, and they both knew that. So, all right.
thanks, Rusty. Anybody else have any other questions, comments, anything on that?
Well, I did have one, so for the roof repair, the repair job, not the replacement, we'll know that the vendor, the insurance company make the choice the best.
What will happen on the insurance one is, I will contact local workers, I will give the insurance company a proposal for each one of them, and then we will select whoever for that.
Okay.
The insurance company usually just follow.
Okay. So that wouldn't be anything we.
And that was another thing that we discussed with local workers today, and they agreed with that sentence.
And due to the fact that repair, I would assume we still have to vote on that, I would assume to approve it.
You'll
but
still
The
have
insurance
the
company will
deductible
basically
that
make
you're
that.
gonna pay and
Okay.
everything, but, you know, before any work's done, you guys will have to approve it.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Rusty.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no other questions or comments on that? The next item on the agenda is discussion by board members and agenda requests. Anybody have any open discussion, things to add to the agenda, anything like that?
I want to have at the next meeting that security software that we had talked about. I hope to end up having information to share at that next meeting.
Okay. For those of you that don't know what that is, Karina Beam actually with the foundation submitted for a grant actually for the entire district that will allow for basically machines, printers, and badge printers basically to where when people come in, they have to show either, I think it's 2 forms of identification, and it runs them through a database to make sure that they're okay to be in the school and things like that, and then it prints them out a deal with their picture and everything else on it. Similar to where a couple of our schools, I think, had this several years ago, and I know front desk and things like that said it worked very well. We just didn't keep up on it and didn't have, a lot of the equipment was outdated and the lists were outdated. But she got a grant though to cover all of the buildings. I think even including West Side and all of that, so it's a pretty cool deal. Yeah, yeah. So I think Scott has actually already talked to them, or actually I think maybe even gotten the equipment ordered. So I think that'll be rolling out to the different, and he'll probably go through and do some training with the staff members and things like that, so.
And if it can't be the 22nd, it would be the next board meeting.
Any other discussion or agenda requests?
Shannon, do you have your little magic sheet that shows your yellow, red, and green? I worry about that as we're going into enrollment. So how are we looking? Now that the last Friday, before enrollment, and the Thursday and Friday, this was all red. So see, waiting the game and making sure you know. So really, first grade's going to be all the way through, which we last year in kindergarten. So big in that 23 is our maximum K2, 25, 35, and we were at or beyond. What we try to do now as it gets full is we try to level it out so we're not lopsided anywhere. But you can see, you know, third and fourth, we could reduce a section, you know, like 40, 34, especially third grade. But once those kids start in a school, how do you say no or close? You know,
Yeah.
that's the part that, last year we did, we had 4 first grade, and we said they weren't full with those 4, but we closed them knowing that this year, second grade, we only have 3. So you can control some of that if it's closed, but you know, I look at 61, we could say no, and I hope a few leave, that'd be a big class there, but I mean, those are the things that we keep an eye on, but in time as you lose students, some of that you lose control of, but that's where we're at.
So,
No,
no,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
here. But, so where are we in meeting our objectives of sticking with 23 or under?
Well, if it's not red, then it hasn't met its limit. So yellow is we're getting close, like, so under Lincoln, it's yellow 45, those are the 2 teachers, right below, there's 1 slot left that would close it and make it red. So like if
Which
you
would
go
take
over
us
there
to
and
that
Lincoln on
limit.
46, it's closed, and the 0 below means we're not open, it's 23, 23, so it's met what we said is a limit.
And have we gone beyond our limit anywhere?
Well, if you look, yes, first grade out of Laughlin, they each instead of 23 have 24. There's 3 over, we're 1 over at Roosevelt, we're 3 over here. And 2 over here, I'll visit with Anita, if these were late enrollees and now we have openings, we might want to spread, I mean, they haven't started yet, if they had maybe a second foot, we might look at that. I think she had one that was questionable in there, but those are the things that, the living document.
take that one.
That's kind of what I thought. Anybody have any other agenda requests or discussion? Okay. I think we do need a quick exec session, so I'm going to make a motion to enter into exec session for a period of 15 minutes to include the board, the superintendent, and the director of finance for the director purposes of non-elected personnel. Okay, second. You what? Yeah, that's why we're doing it. You need some exercise. We can stay here, I don't care. We could do that, or we could actually go in that room right over here. Yeah, we can do that. Did somebody second it? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
No,